being black matter? Why does his skin color matter? Well, it matters because this fake white Jesus that people be praising was made white for oppression, for brainwashing. And if skin color doesn't matter, if Jesus being black does not matter, change all the images. Change all the jewelry you got of a white Jesus. Change all the statues y'all got. Change all the artwork y'all got to a black Jesus. If it doesn't matter, it's so easy. It's a simple fix. Why not if it doesn't matter? But it does matter. But it does matter, huh? But it does matter. And that's why you won't change anything. And that's why even though y'all know Jesus is black, you make every excuse in the book on why now it doesn't matter. People cannot fathom that the person they've been praising looks just like the people they've been oppressing.
How do I say this? The entire Bible is about black people. Not only was Jesus black, but every character in the Bible seems to be black too. Yeah, Zephaniah and Jeremiah and Jebediah, those all aren't white people names, okay? And Jesus wasn't some tan, partially melanated Middle Eastern person either. I'm talking straight up black dude, okay? Even in the book of Revelation, when you get the vision of Daniel, he's describing someone with feet like burnt brass and white woolly hair, and we've got the deep running water voice with the red eyes, and you guys, he's black. The Jewish people are black people, like Kanye was right. And those people yelling at the park dressed in purple about black people being the real Hebrew Israelites, they're right, okay? Like, anytime you see the word Hebrew or Israelite or Jew in the Bible, in your mind you got to replace that with black person. So the whole Bible is going to make a lot more sense to you once you start reading it like that. But you need to let this get settled in your heart now before you get up there. So, I mean, they were literally whipping him on his way to get crucified, you guys. Crucifixion was a punishment, like, for slaves back then. And gladiators. And all the gladiators were black too. Did you know that? Like, you guys, he was sold for 30 pieces of silver. That was the maximum amount of money that a slave could be sold for. Oh, just coincidence? Above his cross, it says INRI. They were like mocking him. They were saying it says this is the king of the Jews. They're saying, like, here's the king of the black people. Look what we did to him. Why does the KKK burn crosses, you guys? The racist KKK. It's just, black people rejoice. You are God's chosen people. Like, I mean, those are some big shoes to fill, but be honored. Like, feel good about that. Like, how cool. Anyway, see you later. Jesus was black.
Alright, racists, let's talk about your distaste for black joy. Racist America fumes at the sight of happiness, especially when that person smiling is black. It's as if this country specializes in anger Olympics. Being a little too happy disturbs the patriotism. 3 or more laughs in one place is like being investigated by a mall cop. I'm gonna need to see some ID. Because deep down, they believe that pain is the only state that black indigenous people are allowed to live in. Black people start laughing too loud at their cousin's cookout. They throw on some Frankie Beverly. They start dancing with their auntie in a sundress while the ribs are sizzling. Instantly, their lives are in danger. It's like watching a perfect example of a case study on people who have a problem with control. It's like their obsession isn't just with control, it's like with the optics of it as well. They want to be seen as dominant in the space, because they seem to disappear when there is black joy. When you throw your graduation cap in the air, surrounded by your entire family in matching t-shirts, they don't see achievement, they see defiance. Because in their minds, success was never black people's storyline. The truth is, black joy is a glitch in the racist lies that they feed themselves. They built a whole myth of superiority that only works if you're miserable, delusional, insecure, jealous, and mediocre. mediocre. When black people shift the world with their joy and laughter, the racist's entire self-image starts to crack. This is why racists gatekeep golf courses, ban urban dress codes, side-eye loud laughter, and call the cops when the music's just a little too bassy. The unnecessary hate and determination to ruin black people's happiness is a disease, a brain-eating amoeba that siphons the cognition out of America's privileged society. And what hurts the most is that happiness and black joy.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're faring well where you are, and if you ain't faring well, please fare well where you are. You know, they say there's nothing very fictitious, right, than the truth. The greatest fiction is the truth, right? It's even as strange as, like Sherlock Holmes, one of the greatest fictional characters, the man with the highest IQ in the literature world, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. He says that if you leave out the impossible, right, just leave out the impossible, whatever you are left with, however improbable it may seem, that is always the truth. And that is the case with the case of this video today. Because many times, I've spoken very many times about fiction, whitewashing, and how the people who wrote history, they wrote it with a biased mindset. They had an agenda, and they had someone maybe who had sent them to work on that, right? So they wrote history in their favor and left out the truth because they couldn't handle the strangeness of the truth, right? So the Bible, or rather the world has made the Bible look white, and everything that appears black in the Bible is not painted well, right? And that is the human perspective. That is the human corruption of the Bible, not God himself, right? Because we have black people who have intermarried with the Middle Easterns. And the Middle Eastern people are not white, not like the Western people put them. The Middle Easterns are neither white nor black. They are brown people, right? That place experiences a lot of sunshine, and it's mostly desert. It explains scientifically why they wouldn't be white. But still, people make them white. Jesus Christ was a Middle Eastern man when he was walking the earth. He was a Middle Eastern man. And he couldn't be white with blue eyes like the way we see them being painted and the pictures stored in our homes. Many African homes have the pictures of Jesus Christ, the white one, with the long hair. You can see this is a very pale skin. But Jesus Christ was not that. Jesus Christ, I do say up to now, he was not black, he was not white. He was like the people of his times. He was close to blackness, by the way, as compared to whiteness. And this truth is hurting so many people, and they really do not think it is possible that a mere black person would be a savior of the world, or someone who is close to blackness would be a savior of the world, right? So I want us to dive into this video, get an understanding, because we are having people coming up front, and they are trying to educate. I think they're educating our brothers and sisters concerning this very topic, right? So let's dive in. Let's listen to some of these truths and how our community, the white community, the black community, the Asian, all communities are handling this truth. Now let's get to this. I shall get back where we shall also have a deep critical analysis. Now let's dive in.
Jesus was not white, and I believe we will not be free until people stop praising this fake white Jesus. If anything, Jesus was black. If anything, Jesus was dark. If anything, Jesus, like, it literally states in the Bible, he had wool hair. So people love to claim, oh, it's about the message, not the messenger. But the messenger was not white with blonde hair and blue eyes. That's propaganda to make people have a white savior complex. And it's keeping people in these cycles of religious psychosis.
I really hate to break this to you at 7 a.m. on the first day of school while I'm cooking bacon, but if you're racist, and have hate in your heart for black and brown people, you do not have a personal relationship with Jesus. You don't. You can't. You don't. The relationship that you're imagining is made up, because if you hate black and brown people and are racist and vote for policies that oppress black and brown people, then you don't love Jesus. Like, I don't know how clear to make it for you, but I just want you to know that Jesus wants you to know that he doesn't fuck with racists. And if you are a racist, you do not have a personal relationship with Jesus, no matter how much you think you do. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I realized I have 11 more seconds, and I might as well eke them out. So, like, I left the church 5 years ago. I don't call myself a Christian. Jesus would, and he's adamant about it. Live your life.
A lot of black folks don't go for this black Jesus at all. Been praying to a white Jesus all their lives. This is their Jesus, and no activist of the moment is going to come along and rip that imagery out of their soul.
So I can't be the only person on the fence about this whole black Jesus and Russia thing. But what more I'm questioning is why? Why would you post it now? Like, why now? And then you see everyone who is not black saying, oh, it doesn't matter about the color, race shouldn't matter, Jesus is Jesus. But y'all was just trying to prove that this man was white. Now that they're proving that he's black, but this is the thing that I've always said, for the simple fact that they've hidden this stuff to repaint a picture of someone that they're not. They literally took some history and repainted it with a whole nother color. That's creepy. But one, why are you trying to show us history now? Like, why now? Like, is something coming and y'all are scared and y'all are trying to get on our good side? I've always said, there's going to be a day where the people of the transatlantic slave trade, we will rise, or someone is coming to get us. And when they come to get us, everybody's going to try to act like we are all one or we were all friends. No. Get him. Get him. Right there. Him too. But one thing I'm starting to see, a lot of Africans are starting to come out and say, a lot of blacks were already where they were at. The transatlantic slave trade was to mix us all up and to make it seem like we came from certain places when in all reality, we were already here. Because if you take the Aboriginal Australians, they left from Africa to Asia all the way down to Australia. But you mean to tell me nobody came to the Americas? But they said that when the Arab and the Muslims took over Egypt and North Africa, they sent those slaves to the east. But those same slaves that were sent to the east were sent to the west to be shipped to the Americas. It's like they moved us around so much for us to lose where we actually came from. Slavery existed in Africa prior to the transatlantic slave trade. In fact, the earlier trans-Saharan slave trade sent more enslaved Africans east to the Muslim world. Over many centuries, then would be transported to the west, to the Americas. Now, this part is a conspiracy theory. I honestly feel like, y'all know how they say ancient times were like thousands of years ago? I actually feel like it was just recent. We were the ancient people and they destroyed the old world and made their own new world. Just look up the quantum theory. And when y'all talk about CERN, y'all literally put me on game because I never knew about CERN. CERN ties in with the quantum theory. And they talk about how the Pope added 300 years to the calendars. Just look this shit up. Just go look up any archaeologist. They say they can't find any remnants. That's what they call it, remnants. They can't find any remnants from the Stone Age. The Middle Ages, they can't find shit. As if it never happened. That's why I said, what if they're just putting all these stories together like the Roman period? The Roman period, they're literally using other people's names from prehistoric times. Like, I've always wondered, are these timelines and these ages just storylines just to fit in a timeline so it could seem like everything was so far away when in all reality, it just happened? I don't know, it's just a theory, but for the simple fact that they have to hide black excellence in our history and they have to whitewash it, something ain't right. It's something very weird about that.
Recently, President Putin unveiled things they have from their archives. They say 1,000 years in their archives, and they showed that Sayyidina Isa salam to be dark-skinned, and images that are associated with the people of Sayyidina Isa salam dark-skinned. and from what we taught from Sayyidina Muhammad was very dark skinned. 70,000 prophets of Allah, now these ulama are finally admitting, out of 124,000, 70,000 dark skinned prophets. Means with Islam lies the truth, and all others they put a deception, what we call kufr, that to know a truth and to deceive a people and to make a certain race of people as if they're more important than others.
I think the guy who posted on my religion video insisting Jesus was black, I think some people probably on the left think that if Jesus was black, white people wouldn't like him. And that's just, I got so many conservative patients, I've never heard a racist comment. I just think the left has it all wrong about the people they're fighting, and maybe the right has it wrong about the left. I don't know. But that comment just pissed me off because Jesus looked like everybody looked in the Levant back then. Now they're Jews and Palestinians. They're not African American. I'm sorry, they're just not. Not that it even matters. I don't think there's no white religious person is going to, stop worshiping because Jesus was black. It wouldn't really matter. But Egypt, by the time Jesus was born, okay, and he was born, look it up. But by the time he was born, Egypt had been colonized for 2,000 years. Alexander the Great brought armies down from Greece. Rome invaded 1,000 years later. They were in Egypt. So northern Africa was largely mixed race. Yes, some sections towards the south had more black residents. Not that it matters, but just a little history. The world existed a long time before Jesus. There were white Europeans 12,000 years before Jesus was born. And I just, I think everyone would benefit from just a little broader scope of history. And now with AI, it's just so easy. Just look it up and then post, and I'll reply more nicely.
This video is for educational purposes only. This is not bullying or harassment. Thank you so much for this comment. I have been waiting for this comment ever since I revealed my Woke Jesus t-shirt that I just happen to be wearing right now, and you can grab you one in my TikTok shop. I will link it right below. But let's discuss this. So this comment says Jesus was an Arab Jew, not black. So first off, a few things about me that you should know. I was raised as a Christian. Started off in a Baptist church, then started going to a non-denominational church. I've read multiple versions of the Bible from front to back multiple times, as well as have read it in Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. I was ordained at 16 and have since spent time deconstructing Christianity and where it stems from, its origins, its history, and its effects on America, especially its effects on black people in America. Now, I say all that to make clear that I am not a Christian, but I will explain to you why I made this shirt after I address the comment. So one thing you gotta understand, right, is that in biblical times, race was not a thing. Now, race is a modern notion, and during the 16th to 19th centuries, it was used more to describe people's nation or ethnic group. It's during the 19th century that it took on the meaning of physical anthropology through scientific racism. Now, you say that Jesus was an Arab, right? Well, what is an Arab? An Arab is a cultural and linguistic term. It refers to those who speak Arabic as their first language. Arabs are united by culture and by history. Arab is not a race. Some have blue eyes and red hair. Others are dark-skinned. Many are somewhere in between. Now, biblically speaking, Arabs, according to the book of Genesis, are the descendants of Ishmael, the 12 tribes of Ishmael, to which the early Muslims are descended. Now, a lot of people like to say that Jesus was from the Middle East, right? So that automatically makes him an Arab, right? Well, you also need to understand that the Middle East did not exist in biblical times. That was not coined until the late 19th century by the British, thanks to Eurocentric geographical terms: Near East, Far East, Middle East. Now, according to biblical encyclopedias, in the Bible, Arabians refers to the nomads who live in the deserts of Arabia, especially in the northwestern part. They are also known by the general term people of the East. Here are some of the tribes of Arabians that were named in the Bible. Now, in the Old Testament, Arabia was often referred to as Kedem, or the East. Now, was Jesus from Arabia? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Yeah, that's right. Jesus was born in a place called Bethlehem, which is a city south of Jerusalem. Let's take it to a map. Here you can see Bethlehem, and here you can see Jerusalem. This is where Jesus was born. But that really doesn't tell you a whole lot, right? Because we're so zoomed in. So let's zoom out a little bit. Now here's the kingdom of Israel in the time of Jesus. And here you can see again, this is where Jesus was born. So for Jesus to be Arabian, he would have needed to be born in Arabia, according to the Bible, right? So where's Arabia? There it is, over here. And where's Bethlehem? Over here.
I think a lot of people are missing key points within this video. We don't care that he said that he does not have a black church, right? Because historically, he's correct. He does not have a black church. The Institute of the Black Church within America is very specific to Black Americans, right? The Institute of the Black Church, it was a hub for civil rights, social justice, right? Women's rights. It was a hub for the community. It was a space that we ran to when we were not accepted in white spaces. So historically, he does not have a black church because he's Trinidadian American. He's an immigrant. So he has nothing to do with the history of black people here. He does not speak for black culture within America. What I want to highlight is the issue we have is this person consistently speaks against black culture. He consistently says things like, if black boys in this country would obey authority, they would not be gunned down. That is harmful when we know history tells a very different story. When we know that our children have complied and they still have been gunned down in the street by law enforcement. When you say things like Jesus was never black, when you say things like this is not a black church, he is being used as a pawn for white supremacy to come against black culture. Because it's not just about, oh, everybody coming together. No, the Institute of the Black Church was very specific because of racism. Now, if he was really standing on business, he would speak directly to white supremacy in this country. He would open his mouth like he always has smoke for black Americans and black culture. He would have smoke for white people. He would say out of his mouth, the same way he said this is not a black church, he would have said this is not a white church. And I come against white supremacy and white Christian nationalism. But he's not going to say that because he's directly connected to MAGA. He was trained under Rod Parsley, okay, who's a part of MAGA. He's not going to say that because they're using people like him. That's why he's not going to come against the evilness that white people have done. How do we idolize race? How do black people idolize race when white people have benefited from race than any other culture in the world? They have colonized 86% of the world with race using Christianity. And we have a problem with idolizing our race? Are you kidding me? But he's not going to speak against that. So that's the issue that we have. It is the agenda against black culture.
Hey, look, no matter what nobody says, regardless of what anybody thinks, Jesus was black, bro. In the Bible, it says that Jesus had wool-like hair and skin like bronze. That is a depiction of a black man. Bronze is a brown kind of. So why when I look on TV and I look everywhere, I always see Jesus Christ depicted as white instead of black? That's because when we were given the Bible as slaves, as black people, we were given the Bible by slave masters. They wanted us to look at them as God rather than what God actually looked at like, which is one of the slaves, basically. Not saying that God was a slave or anything like that. I'm just saying, though. That's why you can't believe everything you see on TV, because everything on TV is not always the truth. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that Jesus had straight, long, blonde hair and blue eyes. So why is he depicted like that everywhere? And he didn't look like that. But in reality, it really doesn't matter what color Jesus was because he loves us all. Just another scheme, another plot to take black folks away from their heritage and who they actually were as a people. I feel as if black folks knew exactly who they were and where they actually came from, it'd make them act differently.
Christianity hasn't did a single thing for the black community and never will. You see, the thing about Christianity is it teaches you to, turn the other cheek and just let God handle everything. Don't worry about it. Let him handle it. And I hate to bring race into it, bro, but white supremacy and Christianity go hand in hand. If you let a black Christian talk long enough, they're going to say the most out-of-pocket anti-black shit ever. And I want to bring up slavery because it's just so hypocritical. Now, you got some that'll say that, black people deserved it because we was worshiping false idols like the trees and suns or whatever nonsense, even though you had other groups of people around the world doing the same shit. Or the other argument is that, God gave everybody free will and white people abused that free will. Now, here's the problem with that logic. They'll bring up God for the smallest inconveniences. Like, say they get a new job. Like, they'll be like, I got the job because of God. He helped me get it. So God decided to help you get your job, but he didn't want to help motherfuckers literally getting eaten, beaten, tortured for 400 years straight. Like, what? But yeah, we deserved it because, we was worshiping them trees and stuff, living off nature, doing all that stuff they trying to do nowadays,
Here's why I cannot be a Christian as a black man. To be a Christian as a black man means that I have to turn the other cheek to the social injustices that directly affect black men. I have to claim that I don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but with spiritual wickedness in high places to avoid from getting my hands dirty with those social issues. It makes all the sense in the world, because if you think about colonizers or the slave master, wouldn't it benefit him if you as a black person became Christian? Of course, because then you wouldn't fight back. You would simply just turn the other cheek. Yeah, you would obey your master, even as unto the Lord. Why I cannot be Christian as a black man? It will require me to forget the horror that happened to my people, and also to forget the horrors and injustices that happen to us today. Oh, but here's the kicker. I would have to ignore slavery and the fact that God never showed up, and that God would dare listen to the prayers of our oppressors. At least that's what they told us. And believe it or not, black Christians believe that. Then you have the black Israelites. Oh boy. Yeah, making God black justifies all the horrors of the Bible, right? See, if God were black, that would make him worse, at least to us. But furthermore, since I'm a critical thinker, what do I need a God to believe in for anyway? Can anybody answer that? Why do I need a God? And which one do I need? And why they always talking behind my back? Why they can't come tell me or nobody else? Because it's nonsense. Oh.
So after clearly listening to the brother, explain, and the sisters explain the truth for what it is, I repeat again, the truth is always stranger than fiction. Very, very strange. But if you leave everything aside that you've always been told, and you realize these things are not truth, or rather these things are impossibilities, then that which you are left with, however improbable it might seem, I repeat again, that is always the truth. The case of Jesus Christ being black and people refusing to accept this truth is more of a racial, it is a racial phenomenon, right? It is a phenomenon because it is believed by a group of people. It is believed, and if you try and speak it, that no, let's try and look at this other side. Maybe he wasn't white like us. Come on, look at the geography of Israel. Look at the geography of Palestine. Look at the geography of Syria. Look at the geography of places such as Iraq, Iran, right? These places are desert. And for the light skin to prevail, for the light skin to be light as it is, it requires tundra vegetations, places that are very, very cold. Places such as Switzerland, where we have the Alps mountains, places such as Alaska, places such as the Caucasus Mountains in Eastern Europe and in the Northern Hemisphere. That will explain the white skin. So the denial here is even a scientific, it's a scientific insult. It's a scientific insult, yes. Why would you say that which is supposed to be thriving in the desert, or rather that which is supposed to be surviving in the cold areas, can survive in the desert? It's a very, very big lie, right? So people just don't want to accept to accept the truth that Jesus Christ was very close to black people than he was to the white people because of the area he was living in. If you look at Middle East, it's very close to Africa than it is to Europe. Middle East, yes, very close to Africa. In fact, very close to the Horn of Africa, as it is to Europe, those cold places, right? So it explains why even the Bible documents Abraham moving to Egypt. It explains why Moses moved to Egypt. He even married a black woman, a Cushite. The Cushites are people such as the Ethiopians, right? It explains that. So the denial is just not accepting that these people we've been oppressing are the ones who are God's chosen. That is a very hard truth to chew. Imagine you being oppressive to someone and realizing that this person you have always oppressed might be the key or is the key for your freedom, to your for your eternal life after death. It's a very hard truth to accept. And we can't say the Middle East was brown people, but Jesus Christ was only white. No. Jesus Christ was like the people of his times during that time. And I believe Africans maybe looked like them. So he was not white. That is the point. That is the point here. He was not white. Geography supports it. Science supports it. History supports it. Very many documentation supports it. And I can say, upon this video, while watching it, I can say that these people, they just don't want to accept the truth for what it is, because it's very hard to chew. It's very hard to chew. You may want to share with me your thoughts. Let's hear what you have to think or what you think about this specific situation. Give us your thoughts on the comment section. Please, I'd really love to hear what you have to say. Yeah. Thanks for watching. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like my work, kindly subscribe. And remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. And black people are God chosen. Yep. Black people are God chosen. That group with which suffers the most, they suffer the most because the enemy has put a mark on them. They are chosen, and so they must suffer. Yeah. So black people are chosen. Thanks for watching this video. This is EFK Original Documentaries. See you in the next one.